Hello, my name is Amy, reporting from News Kaylee. First on our news story is Shakespeare.
You're so Shakespeare.
What is it? The first topic we will be discussing about is Shakespeare. I have recently just watched Romeo and Juliet by the one and only Shakespeare. This movie has a beautiful love story between two lovers whose families do not love each other at all. They are totally against each other. Romeo is the boy, and Juliet was clearly the girl. The two young people met at a ball and fell instantly in love with each other. Yet they had to stay secret. The two families have been fighting for a very long time, and if they found out Romeo and Juliet if the families found out Romeo and Juliet loved each other, they would have to face dark consequences, causing Romeo and Juliet to sneak around just to be with the ones they loved. This is when it got very serious. One day, Romeo and some of his family got into a big fight with Juliet and her family. And both families, they lost someone they loved. So, Romeo went to visit Juliet after a couple days of cooling down after the fight. And Juliet was very sad and depressed because of the family member she lost. That night, even though they were totally depressed together, not really together, but they were depressed in general, they made love for the first time. I'm sorry, this just gets me so emotional. Juliet's family was forcing her to marry a different guy whom she didn't love. And somehow, words got around to Romeo that Juliet killed herself. And so, he went to the church that supposedly she killed herself in. And the moment he stepped into that church, someone shot him. And of course, Juliet was the one to find him dead. So, of course, love, it always has to last forever, so bang! She shot herself. She made that decision because she loved him. Now that we are done learning about Romeo and Juliet, we will talk about how it affects teenagers these days. So, as you know, Romeo and Juliet would do anything for love. Clearly. Many teenagers fall in love in high school, but most relationships do not last unless the love is real and they were willing to do anything for each other. And that is what Romeo and Juliet does. They will do anything to be together. I think teenagers should be learning more about Shakespeare and Romeo and Juliet because it will help them with their love life. This will help them know who they are truly in love with, because if that person they are in love with and themselves will do anything to be together like Romeo and Juliet did, then they know it's true love, and that will help teenagers throughout their life. I spit. And it will help them know who to spend their right life with. Where was I? Sound check. There we go. It will help teenagers feel better about themselves, because knowing who they love and who loves them is all what teenagers want now these days. They want to know that someone loves them. They want to know that they love someone. Teenagers want self-esteem And self-esteem is brought by love in how they feel. If they know that someone feels for them and what it's like to feel for someone, then their self-esteem is boosted. And thanks to Romeo and Juliet, they are a beautiful, 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 inspiring couple.
So how has Romeo and Juliet affected your love life?
Well, Romeo and Juliet affected my love life because it inspired me to tell the boy I like that I love him. I mean, he's my best friend. So, I mean, I love him. So, he has a girlfriend. And I was always afraid. To let my emotions out.
How did the play influence this, though?
Well, before I watched the play, I was so upset because he had a girlfriend. And I told myself, if Romeo and Juliet could do it when it wasn't meant to be, like, I could do it. Because he has a girlfriend, so it's not meant to be. So, I mean, like, I told him how I feel. I told him I loved him. And I love him. I mean, oh my God, tissue now.
But what did the boy end up saying back to you?
The one thing that made my heart jump, the one thing that meant to me, he said he might like me too.
So, how do you feel after you've told him and now that he's responded?
I feel extremely relieved. I mean, I can breathe. I mean, I'm extremely happy because I know that it was the right thing to do because I followed Romeo and Juliet. I followed that their love was everlasting. I mean, literally, it was everlasting.
One last question.
Excuse me, what?
One last question.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you've watched Romeo and Juliet, how much better do you feel about your relationship with the boy?
OMG, my therapist asked me this too. Okay, so my heart's bigger. I mean, even if it might not work out with me with Mr. Jickerson, I mean, at least I'll know how to let my emotions out later in the future.
So, you just finished watching Romeo and Juliet, correct?
Yeah.
So, now that you've watched Romeo and Juliet, how has it affected you since?
Well, I mean, I like this girl. I mean, I mean, beautiful. She's beautiful. I mean, I love her. So, Romeo is my new inspiration. I want that girl to know I love her. And I told her that. I told her I loved her. I spit. Yeah.
So, after you told her you loved her, what happened?
Well, I asked her out. I mean, yeah, she said no.
Anyways, how do you feel after you express your feelings?
Well, I mean, obviously I was, hurt. But, I mean, it's so manly to feel that I'm strong enough to let my feelings out like Romeo. You know, because he's an inspiration.
Do you have any last words for people who are wanting to learn about Shakespeare and Romeo and Juliet?
I do have a couple. I'm single. Now that we're done with our interviews, I have some fun facts about Shakespeare and why he should be taught in school. These students at Fickleberry Junior High are being impacted in a good way thanks to performing Shakespeare in theatre performances. They are learning about who they are and being true to their true colors on the inside and out. They're also learning how to save money for the people who are not as fortunate as they are when it comes to the money. Scientists have proven that Shakespeare will improve them academically and mentally. Black test scores will be heightened and be on the top with learning about Shakespeare. While American students, they need Shakespeare information in order to raise above and hit the climb that they need in life. Here's some quotes from the National Review on Shakespeare impacting students' lives. This will actually improve Black test scores. Page 30. Quote unquote, American students are stuck where they are because schools are not teaching them informational content they need to make the climb. Quote, page 30. Back in Bloomington, Illinois, in the Counter Phyllis newspaper, there's an article about theater students teach life lessons at the junior high. Quote unquote, through various presentations, students learn they can save more than $1.3 by age 65 if they started saving $100 a month at the age of 13. End of quote, page 1. Quote unquote, one actor removed her wig to expose her baldness as a result of anolopia. That's cancer. Talked about being gay. Another about her battles with anorexia. End of quote, page 1. Okay, that's it for today. Carl, where's my coffee?